Just in time for the holidays, Thrustmaster has revealed a new bundle that gives you all the peripherals you need to race on your PC and PlayStation for $499 or euros. But that's not all. The marketing is quite confident and promises that with the 5Nm T598, we are driving into a new era of direct drive. Thrustmaster is also bringing innovation with that to the market and rethinking the direct drive concept with a new type of motor. In the run-up to this review, we ask you whether we should show or compare something specific, and the question arose how the T598 compares to the TGT2, which still costs about $200 more and is basically one of the most advanced belt-driven wheels of the old era. So we included it and more, and clarified the question of whether the T598 should be under the Christmas tree and whether Thrustmaster might have been a bit premature. Welcome back to Overtake, I'm Michel, and if this is your first wheel set, a little market overview of the alternatives is obviously important to make an informed purchase decision. What do other manufacturers have on offer, and also Thrustmaster themselves? If you want it to be compatible with PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 as well as the PC, the long-established brands Logitech and Thrustmaster also offer sets with the, for example, G923 or the T248 that are around 150 euros or dollars cheaper, some of which are well under 300 even, or just over 200 in seasonal sales. This can also be an option for beginners and younger future racing drivers, and many of us more experienced sim racers have started with something like this or something similar. It's definitely better than no wheel at all. However, a little more power and more effects and more feedback is desirable. A lot has happened in technology in recent years. So if you want a direct drive that runs officially on the PlayStation, the choice has been very limited in the lower price range if you want more power, and $500 won't get you very far. Fanatec offers the DD Pro with either 5 or 8 Nm of torque. The 11 Nm Logitech G Pro offers significantly more power and even finer details as well as more effects thanks to its True Force protocol, but also costs twice as much without pedals. If you are driving on PC or Xbox, you have much more choice, and Fanatec also offers more options for around 500 euros or dollars, including wheelbase, wheel and pedals. The Moza R5 and Moza R3 are also very popular, the latter of which we also reviewed this year. Turtle Beach has also launched something this year, the 7.2 Nm peak torque Velocity 1, which is also often discounted and sometimes in the $500 range, and it comes also with many extras. Another hidden gem for PC users could be the Camus C5, a unique concept with motor and steering wheel as one unit. But in addition to the $329 for the bundle, there are sometimes very high shipping costs as well as customs, duties and taxes. Thrustmaster makes the T598 a very attractive offer, with 5 Nm constant torque, and will certainly make the competition sweat. One aspect that makes this price possible is probably the new motor. Instead of a direct drive radial flux motor, Thrustmaster uses an axial flux motor for the first time. So officially we are no longer talking about DD direct drive, but DAD. This requires less copper and, according to the manufacturer, runs more efficiently, meaning it can convert more mechanical power with less electrical power and less cooling capacity. The biggest difference is the arrangement of the stator tubes, which means that the magnetic flux is generated parallel to the shaft. This completely eliminates the cogging you feel when you turn your conventional direct drive steering wheel when it is switched off. In addition, there are more theoretical benefits of the technology, and Thrustmaster is really serious about it. There are even 2 scientific papers that you can get emailed to you on the Thrustmaster website. And these papers are full of diagrams and technical explanations that illustrate how superior DAD is supposed to be. And the conclusion of these papers is basically it simply outperforms the first generation direct drive wheelbases in every category. Without giving too much away, in my experience, this does not yet apply to the current version of the T598. But first, let's unpack it. Right at the top is a large illustrated manual that clearly explains to you what's in the box and what we need to go to get everything up and running. The table clamp, which allows you to use the unit on a desk, does not need to be ordered separately, it's in the box. The wheelbase is a little higher than the more block-shaped DDs we've seen so far because of that DAD motor. Somehow I got bad guy spaceship vibes when I saw this wheelbase, also because of the front structure, which is reminiscent of the new axial drive. The small screen at the top is an important element for controlling various functions of the steering wheel, carrying out calibrations and displaying telemetry. It takes up a whopping 40 pages of the manual to explain this screen, which is a good indication that you really need to get to grips with it. Thankfully, Thrustmaster has also released a 13-minute video that walks you through the screen configuration if you prefer. The 11.8-inch or 30 centimeter diameter Sportscar wheel rim is very clearly designed and organized with the buttons with perforated rubber grips and a laminated carbon structure that looks quite nice. There are 17 buttons on the front, including PlayStation branding buttons, with the 4 buttons on the bottom right acting as a sort of multi-switch. The S button toggles between 4 pages, highlighted then by a color-changing LED. In Gran Turismo 7, for example, this is used to directly control functions such as traction control or brake balance. This also works in ACC, of course, Assetto Corsa Competizione. Instead of the classic 12 o'clock marker, there are these 4 red rings, the placement of which reminds me a little of Drift Sport, and it's also fitting that it is round-shaped in that case, which I really like. A positive surprise in this price range are the magnetic shift pedals, which feel great and are not too loud. The T598 base is also compatible with the Thrustmaster ecosystem, so a variety of wheels and accessories can be used. One recommendation would be to stick with lighter and thinner wheels. The Sportscar wheel rim, for example, weighs just 811 grams, which is well suited to the 5 Newton meter or like the generally lower power of the wheelbase. So the forces get transferred better through the wheel to your hands. The 488 GT3 wheel also fits well in that sense. Since the T818 wheelbase, Thrustmaster has a new, much better quick release system. If you still have some old steering wheels laying around, there's also a QR adapter, or even better, a QR upgrade that screws directly onto the wheel. The flagship SF1000 wheel is a little exception right now. This will also be released with the new QR style later this year even. And this is the only one that cannot be converted yet to the new quick release, but you can still use the adapter I just mentioned. There are also pedals included in the kit, which require a bit of assembly and screwing. But this is no different from Fanatec or Moza, for example. The so-called Raceline Pedals LTE are Hall sensor pedals with springs and, in case of the brake, an elastomer. There are also different spring rates and angles to choose from to individualize it a bit to your needs. And the package also includes small floor mat stoppers for the desk racers, which work quite well, as you can see here. Even with the harder spring on the brake, they didn't move at all on our floor. We'll find out how well the pedals work in practice, even against the TCLM load cell pedals, when we go out for a drive, and there was a surprise waiting for me. But first we fitted everything to our track racer cockpit for our console setup. The cabling is also a little odd, with 3.5-inch cables that plug directly into the base's RJ port. The first thing we did was to connect the T598 to the PC. Setting up and updating the wheel revealed some of the weaknesses already mentioned in the Hypercar wheel review. The software, My Thrustmaster panel, is not ready 100% at the time of this video and for the launch. In the settings area, you are greeted with the phrase "coming soon," which is rather questionable for a product that is on sale already. This means that we have to do all the settings for the T598 via the dash screen on the wheelbase. The My Thrustmaster panel is currently more or less only a firmware update tool, and unfortunately it does a rather poor job of that. For example, to update the firmware on the mentioned 488 GT3 wheel, it is not enough to simply connect the wheel to the base. We have to download first the old Thrustmaster software with the firmware update tool, then reboot the PC, and, to make matters worse, completely remove and unscrew the QR on the wheel to connect it then directly via USB, because the USB port is hiding underneath the quick release. And this is not very user-friendly, and pretty much all manufacturers I can think of right now do it better nowadays. This is hopefully just a matter of time though. But has the revolution that we've been promised by Thrustmaster been a success? Let's start with the driving experience in Gran Turismo 7, where the T598 is still recognized as the older TGT. We asked Thrustmaster directly about this. The answer: this is under Polyphony hands, so Polyphony Digital, that's the developers of Gran Turismo 7. For now, T598 is still recognized as TGT2, and that is why it does not reach its full potential on GT7 yet. We'll do our best to move forward with this. Yeah, as was the case with Fanatec's GT DD Extreme earlier this year, Thrustmaster doesn't seem to have been able to coordinate the product launch with Sony and Polyphony Digital. Yeah, we'll have to live with that for now, but the wheel itself works well. It's basically like many other wheels in Gran Turismo 7. Some cars, especially street cars, have a less detailed force feedback. Some curbs have no feel at all. If you overdrive the front wheels, you will eventually get some rubbing, but it's not really organic or smooth, and yeah, the oversteer feeling doesn't really kick in either. We drove here with preset number 3, which is rather strong. I experimented with a few settings, for example with the friction setting, but apart from a constant grain, there is no additional detail or communication from the wheel. The gear jolt function is a nice gimmick that gives you a little FFB beat when you change gears. Raceroom also offers a similar effect if you know that. For example, the Group 3, so the GT3 and the Group 4, GT4 cars for example, as most of the racing cars feel good, or at least you can really well control them and you get good feedback, as do the rally scenarios in terms of the road surface. And now I know why Thrustmaster chose them to present the T598 at the simracing expo. The next big title on the PlayStation 5, Assetto Corsa Competizione, also has its problems with the T598. The force feedback feels a little numb, and you get the feeling that some effects are just missing still. An update from game developer Kuno Simulazioni will probably be needed to take proper account of the new axial drive, but it's hard to say whether this will happen in the near future. The belt-driven TGT2 was much richer in that regard, but we'll come to that comparison towards the end. Things look better on the PC. I'm going to tell you what I experienced from the best to the worst. At the top for me was Le Mans Ultimate. As with the T818 we tested earlier this year, this title makes good use of Thrustmaster's hardware and shows what is possible without having to spend a lot of time tweaking the setup or the settings. Fine details, reproducible effects, and the biggest strength of the T598 is really the smooth steering feel. The no-cogging marketing really comes into its own here. iRacing was also decent. You get a good feel for the car, and the axial drive allows Thrustmaster to use steering forces for an overshoot that briefly exceeds 5 Nm without hardware clipping. This makes the wheelbase in some situations feel stronger at times and more like an 8 to 10 Newton meter base. It is only when the car loses grip and starts to rotate around the jaw axis that the feeling disappears for the whole car. The tire and suspension feel is also a little more composed on some stronger wheelbases, and also the response is on some wheelbases better. But of course, we always have to keep in mind the price of this package, $499 in euros, and therefore we have to frame it correctly. With EA Sports WRC, my expectations were somewhat disappointed, as the title actually works well with many weaker bases, and there's always a lot going on in the wheel. Even Fanatec CSLDD or also Moser R3 with its 3.9 Nm, for example, make a great impression. However, with the T598, the power slides and lateral movement of the car in particular are very dull with the 598, and you lose a bit of precision and feel for where the car is going when you are in a low grip scenario. Then ACC was no revelation on the PS5, but it wasn't much better on the PC either. Over the last few years, I've gotten the feeling that you need a wheelbase of at least 12 to 15 Newton meter or more in ACC to get valuable feedback from the tires through your hands, and anything below that just falls flat. If you have good settings for any wheelbase, or in particular the T598, please post it in the comments. One of the biggest problems during our test, however, was the oscillation and a few vibrations. On the PlayStation in particular, the steering wheel tends to wobble in almost every situation, even in the menus. If you just give it a little spin, it just continues and continues. There's also a constant humming or vibration that really disturbed me while using it. If you are just floating through the menus, tuning your car in Gran Turismo, you just have a constant humming through the wheel. A few cars, like the McLaren Vision GT being an extreme example, are even completely unmanageable, and the wheel bounces so much that it can even be dangerous for inexperienced drivers or especially kids, even on the softer D setting. We also asked Thrustmaster about this, and they said oscillations/vibrations in menu occur because of no friction, no cogging DAD technology. However, we are about to release a new firmware update which will solve oscillations in menu. You'll still get the subtle vibration. It will also add a new FFB setting called inertia. This setting lets you adjust the wheel's inertia proportionally to the car's speed. The faster the car goes, the greater the inertia, reducing oscillations on straight line with powerful cars. So you can consider these two issues already solved, as it will be with the new firmware. They are aware of the problems and are working on them. It is also positive to note that the company responds very directly and actively, not only to our, but also to customer feedback and questions, including being very active on the company Discord at Thrustmaster. And if you don't use headphones when driving, but instead use speakers, for example from your TV, I would like to warn you about the noise this wheelbase makes, especially if you have roommates or a dog maybe. It is a very low frequency noise, like a kind of chirping, that I found very unpleasant, mostly when cornering. So whenever like this understeer effect sets in. Thrustmaster on this as well. This is normal. DAD motor produces a sound while using at the maximum setting. But it also happened in the lower settings, by the way. This is the sound of an electric motor, like Formula E or electric scooter. The review units seem to be louder than the mass production. The sound will be slightly reduced with the new firmware update. So it's fair to say that I haven't yet experienced a revolution in force feedback, and that the new type of motor also has its drawbacks, apart from the fact that the tall design tends to cover more of the bottom of the screen in many setups, including ours. And if you are honest, did the cogging of your DD wheelbase really bother you? This is anyway usually compensated for in the software. But if the updates improve things a lot for the T598 in the near future, I'll be happy to be convinced and we'll look into it. This Raceline LTE pedal set, on the other hand, performed all the better for this. They are very easy to modulate, and the pedal travel is optimized to drive a wide range of cars. I drove a little consistency test with the more expensive TCLM load cell pedals, which you could also use as an upgrade, by the way, for the T598. And my delta over 10 laps in Tsukuba was better and tighter with the Raceline pedals, even though I drove them first, so I even had the practice time before. But yeah, that could just be me, so don't read too much into it. But I think that both the accelerator and the brake are returned like more linearly when you release the pedal. So the release characteristic of the pedals is simply better, or just suits my driving style better. That can also be the case. Yeah, Thrustmaster will be also releasing a load cell upgrade kit and a clutch for these pedals in the future. Contrary to the conclusion of other testers who said that the T598 is a huge leap from any belt-driven wheel, I have to say that I found the TGT2, which we took out again, is no worse and in many areas even better if we are talking now about GT7 and ACC on the PS5. But to this day, it is still the more expensive product as well, and probably the most developed wheel of the old days. A beefier version of the veteran T300 RS, which I have used for a very long time as a daily driver, with an approximately 50% more powerful motor used for the TGT2. It is said to have around 6 Nm. But for the same money, you can also get a Fanatec GT DD Pro in that case, with the option of a boost kit up to 8 Nm. I fitted this as well and have to say that it surpasses also the T598 in terms of driving feel, and while being absolutely quiet in operation. Thrustmaster doesn't make it easy for me to rate the T598. I feel like they should have waited half a year to finalize the software on PC, work more closely with the developers on updates for major titles like ACC and GT7, even though that's maybe not so easy. And to get everything out of the axial drive that makes it so strong in theory. As the price is really good and the steering wheel does a lot of things right in other areas and makes it easy to get started with racing with this bundle that has it all basically, and is also scalable if you want to upgrade things in the ecosystem. We give it a 6 out of 10 with a tendency to go up if feedback continues to be responded to and tweaked over the next few months. Complete newcomers might experience a few moments of frustration. The keyword for me is firmware update 488 GT3. But for $500, there's simply nothing better. It has to be said quite clearly. The fact that Thrustmaster is acting as an innovator here, that comes with a few problems when you release a new product, and breaking new ground to make the hobby accessible to more people, is clearly and also a positive signal. What do you think, and how happy are you with your T598? Let potential buyers know in the comments. That is sometimes just as valuable as this review. We have tried to find a good mix of objectivity and subjectivity. Hope it was helpful. Enjoy the next video. See you next time.